All right, welcome to the next episode of the Restoration Success Show. Changing it up a little bit on you this time. We're doing a solo episode. So you get just me this time, and we will see how it goes. But I have something exciting to show and share with you guys. We did a audit across all of our clients all across the US and Canada for 2025 to kind of see what's working best and what some of the outliers were on some of the best performing restoration companies. And I'm going to cover that with you guys today on this episode. So here we go. The So we're going to cover a few things. And again, this is all across the US and Canada. Big markets, small markets, medium markets. We're going to look at review performance, market visibility, paid versus organic marketing, what some of the main lead drivers and factors are, and then maybe some beliefs and myths in the industry that we see that, how maybe we're going to debunk some of those myths. And again, this is based on actual data, right? Like we're not just thinking this is the truth. We actually went and did a huge deep dive across all the data we have, and this is based on thousands and thousands of jobs, not just a 8 job sample size. So here we go. So why does this matter? And again, I already mentioned this. This is across thousands of data points, all market sizes from the Northeast to the Southwest to the Northwest to the Southeast, all the way up into Canada. Um, so this will, so wherever you are listening, we um, we have data in your market or somewhere close to it. So we'll take a look at that. And then we're going to look at some of the things we're seeing across organic versus paid and how they affect each other. And like I mentioned, we'll see some common beliefs we typically come across and how some of those beliefs might be wrong. So the biggest reputation mistake is a 5.0 rating is great, yes, but more reviews equals more lead volume, which is more lead volume, more revenue, right? At the end of the day, the point of all of this is to grow top line revenue, grow the company. I mean, all of this online marketing is just one of the ways we help companies do that. But higher volume of reviews, and I'll show more about this, but for example, a 4.8 with 156 reviews will outperform a 5.0 rating with 23 reviews all day, every day. This is not based off a one-off scenario. We looked at this across all the markets. So remember the takeaway: review volume equals more visibility, which beats a perfect reputation every time. So we'll cover more of this as we go, but remember, get reviews and never stop. Because it will increase your lead volume, which therefore will increase your jobs, which will increase the amount of money you're making, right? And that's the whole point of all of this. So here's the inflection points we've seen. Anything less than like 20 reviews, not a whole lot of traction. 50 reviews kind of seems to be a sweet spot. 100 plus reviews is when there's a huge increase and we start seeing more market dominance. Now, this will vary based on your particular service area, your competition, yes. But remember, this is the averages across a lot of data points. And just for an example, we saw with one of our clients last year, they went from 13 to 73 GBP reviews, and we saw a 3,800% increase in lead volume by the end of the year versus the beginning of the year. All else being equal as far as marketing channels and spend goes. Not 38%, 3,800%. So, any of you that have been listening or, paying attention, I've been screaming this from the rooftops for years now. And a lot of people are like, oh, Jamie, reviews don't matter. I'm like, okay, fine, don't do it. Right. And now, our clients that have been listening to us are seeing the fruits of their labor for this. Reviews equals revenue. I've been saying it for a long time, and some people listen, some people don't, but the people that did, they're making more money. And helping more people out, right, with their water, fire, mold issues, or whatever services you do. So they matter. But here's the sweet spots we've seen where things really start to pick up. So the real goal is, yes, like you want a 5-star review, but any of you that have been doing this for a long enough time, our industry is difficult, jobs are difficult, claims are difficult, people are difficult. Sometimes you can do a perfect job, and some people just get off on leaving somebody a 1-star review. It's unfortunate, but I've just seen it. Something you can't. There's just some people that you just can't make happy, and hopefully you just turn away those jobs. But we've all been there, done that. In the restoration world, construction world, some people are just not going to be happy, right? You show them the bill, they're like, "Oh, I thought this was going to be, 10,000. You're saying it's going to be 25,000 with the rebuild or whatever it is, right?" And then they're pissed off and whatever. We've all been there. So yes, you want 5-star reviews, but if you get enough volume through there, 100, 200, 300, there's probably going to be somebody that's not happy, and it might come down to a 4.9, which is okay. Because what we saw across many, many companies, a 4.8 with 100 plus reviews outperforms a 5.0 with 30 reviews all day, every day. So the takeaway is take review acquisition seriously, have company meetings about it, and then never stop doing it. If you're trying to grow and scale your company. Now, the next thing we realized, and I mean, this kind of seemed obvious to me, but not again, people still don't believe me on this. So I'm like, all right, well, whatever. My job is to speak the truth on what we see works and try to help people out, whether they, execute or apply that information, that's up to them, right? But full stack omnipresence marketing wins all day, every day. And for those of you that have been following some of my webinars, podcasts, whatever, we speak in fishing poles for simplicity. Like Google's not just Google, right? There's 4 different spots on the first page of Google. Well, and now I guess you could argue that there's 6, because sometimes there's an AI overview at the top, but Google's not just Google. There's different spots on the first page of Google. And remember, the whole point of all this too, we want high buyer intent, high quality exclusive leads in the first page of Google. Produces that. All of these fishing poles produce that. And our best performing, highest lead volume accounts are running all of these. And I mean, that makes sense to me, because I'm like, you gotta, lead and job consistency is one of the biggest issues restorers have to deal with. And I don't care if you're in a big market, small market, medium market, no matter what part of the country you're in, that's usually one of the constraints that you need to work on fixing. And we help our clients work on fixing is like, we got to put more fishing poles in the water to catch more fish. And I mean, that seems so obvious, but it's a lot of people still don't do it. But, and again, we confirmed this with the data. We looked at it and we're like, well, yeah, I mean, that makes more sense. That makes sense to us. But again, we looked into that, and it's definitely true across the US and Canada when we really did a deep dive on it and took a look. Now, what we saw with the paid ads more specifically, that would be like local search ads, which is Google's pay per call platform or pay per lead platform. And then, you have the pay per click, which has been around for a while. Um, so one way to look at it is organic kind of builds the foundation, and then paid advertising is kind of one way you can scale it. It's like gasoline on the fire, right? And on average, we saw triple of the lead volume when our clients were running paid ads versus the ones that aren't. So, and we saw like, yes, you can get, this is what we do as well. I guess you want to rank for more and more keywords over time. But we saw limited growth percentages in that versus the companies that were running paid, which that makes sense to me too, right? Because your Google business profile, for example, that's kind of radius based. I mean, you can't rank that thing. Well, I don't want to say you can't, but I don't know if I've ever seen. You're not going to rank 60 miles away from your office because if there's 50 other restoration companies over there, Google's like, oh, well, I'm not showing you like these are legit companies in this market closer to the consumer. That's why they show, everything on Google. I mean, it's not the sole thing that's a ranking factor, but proximity, the person doing the searching is a factor for sure, right? So that's where there's a cap to some of these fishing poles. I'm talking about Google Business Profile or Map Pack ranking specifically. Like, yes, we do for our clients try to push that radius out as far as we can, which is possible. But again, going out 60 miles is not happening. Now, with some of our larger companies, yes, you can start adding and opening up new offices. I mean, we're helping some guys, go to, across the nation, multiple states, et cetera. I mean, that's a different level, but yes, you can do that as well to capture organic traffic there. But there are caps to some of these, and that is where paid ads, if done properly, is you can turn the dial, as I like to say, and crank it. Now, depending on your market, sometimes that can only be scaled up to a certain point, but some of it can be scaled to, we have, the one I'm thinking of now, he's in a larger market, like a top five population market in the country. And like we were able to scale one of his paid channels. He spent over 200 grand on just that fishing pole alone, paid ads. Now, why would he do that though? Because if you watch the cost per lead, it still ended up being on average 50 to 75% cheaper than the pay per lead providers out there, which he uses as well, just to be honest. Why? Because those are other fishing poles. And as long as, people know how to answer the phone and close the jobs, a lot of times you can make the numbers work. Now, yes, it will depend on your market. Yes, it will depend on your average ticket amount. Yes, it will depend on whether you do rebuild putback or not. But for him, they got all that dialed in, so we cranked the dial. And that literally can equate to multiple seven figures of revenue. Multiple. Because yes, some of all of these fishing poles can bring in six-figure jobs. We see it. Yeah, not every job is that big. Yes, I get it. But if you don't have the pole in the water, you're not going to catch the fish, right? So this is one thing we noticed in paid ads. Like, yes, it's not easy. Yes, it is tricky. Restoration is competitive. But if done right, it is a great way to scale things up and multiply the volume. And we confirm that. Now, a few myths that we came across. And some of these were interesting. Bigger cities equals more leads. Now, sometimes it can, but what we're seeing, and this will depend on, remember with our data, it depends on where the people were at when they came to us. Like if they're just getting going, it's going to be tougher than somebody that had already done some marketing online and we're just picking the ball up and running with it, right? I mean, there's caveats to this, but the bigger cities, there's more competition. It's higher acquisition costs, higher, because more competition. means more people driving up the bids, therefore driving up the acquisition costs. It's why in these bigger cities, I'm hearing some of these paper leads is $1,500 for one phone call, right? That's because there's more people competing for the same. There's only so many houses or businesses that flood a day, and people are trying to go after them, right? And then, Google will rotate some of this stuff through because at the end of the day, they're a for-profit company. They're trying to make money, right? Period. So that's why they're trying to filter these people through, shift to where they can, some people can get a few leads here and there. But one thing we'd seen, I mean, due to all these factors, that the smaller mid-tier markets were easier to get quicker, faster results. Which makes sense because there's just less competition. Now, some of these really small markets, there'll be caps because you got population constraints. That's the downside to some of the smaller mid-tier markets. But like I said, some of our companies, they end up opening another office in a nearby city or a nearby state. That's whatever your company goals are, whatever your long-term vision is. But that was interesting. But it also makes sense to me. You fire up a new Google business profile in Houston, Texas. I mean, good luck, right? I mean, there's probably over 1,000 companies there. I don't want to say you shouldn't do it, but the expectations on what's going to happen should be realistic. Because there's people that have been 10, 15 years been doing marketing there, working on it, right? And that's why I always, I've been saying this for years too. The best time to plant a tree is 1,000 years ago. The second best time is today because this does not get less competitive over time, right? It's a great industry. Because in bad economy, good economy, like restoration companies, restorers are needed. So keep that in mind. If you're thinking about expanding into different markets in 2026. And another myth, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, like you need a perfect 5.0 rating. I mean, what we're seeing is like, some people, you know, see a perfect rating, it kind of comes off fake because everybody knows, like, look, companies, humans, nobody's perfect. Like, things happen. And that's what we're seeing from a conversion rate aspect. Or not sometimes, a lot of the times, the 4.7s to 4.9s were driving way more volume than the 5.0 profiles. And then remember, the count matters with that. We're referring like a 4.7 with 187 reviews is outperforming the 5.0s with 34 reviews all day, every day. So remember, the takeaway is volume over perfection. So get reviews and never stop is the point. It's a huge conversion aspect. And one way I like to explain this, because people it blows my mind, but this is why I'm doing this podcast because I'm like, I don't know how else to say it, but reviews equal revenue, right? But it's like, because some people, and it's funny, I've had a couple calls recently, pretty big companies, word of mouth, TPAs, whatever. And that's great. Like we always advise our companies to do that as well, right? You want to do online and offline and never stop doing either of them because you want to compound it over time, right? But they are lower on the review count and they're like, look, we just haven't had much focus there. And I'm like, well, that's fine. Like, but we might want to start focusing on that now, because we want to drive up volume through these other fishing poles. But they just still don't really think it matters. And again, this is why I'm doing this podcast. But one way I like to explain it is like, all right, you heard of Amazon? Okay, yes, of course. What do people do on Amazon? They do a search, they look at the top results, they look at reviews, they purchase product. What do you think people do on Google? They do a search, they look at the top results, they look at reviews, they make a phone call. I mean, that for all businesses really, and especially home service companies, right? And again, not everybody looks at a review before they make a call. Yes, I'm not saying that. I get it. That's where pay-per-click can come in handy too. Like, your house is flooding or on fire or whatever it be, whatever emergency situation, people are pulling out their phones, doing a search, whoever they see first, hey, I need help. That's why that fishing pole can be advantageous. But as a whole, these are the shopping and buying patterns, we're seeing. So myths number 3 and 4, um, a good reputation alone isn't enough, and ads aren't necessarily a flywheel because reviews without ads can be stagnation, um, or become stagnant. You know what I'm trying to say. And then pausing ads, obviously, there's immediate lead drop. But across the board, we saw, because yes, we understand sometimes a storm comes through, hurricane, whatever. You need to pause. You got more work. You're booking people weeks out. Yes, sometimes you have to do it. But some people are like, hey, let's fire it up, or let's pause, let's turn it back on. And this makes sense to me because I've been dealing with Google for a long time. Like, they're trying to make money, and they're not going to say you're penalized for that, but there's a little bit of ramp up period whenever you pause, start. Google's like, dude, these people are willing to pay us all day, every day. They tend to funnel more leads that way. So paid ads is more like a light switch too. Like, you can turn it on and off. Um, But if you just stop doing it, and people don't think about this, but there's like second and third order consequences, is one thing we like to talk about. Like, yeah, I mean, that's fine, but your overall volume will go down, right? And that's why we just wanted to bring that up, because some people think they'll be able to maintain where they're at. They're like, well, this is why we track the leads and jobs by source or by fishing pole, so people can understand that. It's like, hey, yeah, we can slow it down for sure. Sometimes it needs to happen, but be aware, you know, the volume is going to come down. So if you're fine with that, and it might come down for an extended period of time, is I guess the point we're trying to bring up, and for everybody to keep in mind. So, this episode is gonna be more short and sweet, but the final takeaways I want everybody to keep in mind for 2026. You know, some of you might be beyond this, and this is great, but keep this in mind too. If you're opening up new offices, new profiles, etc., 50 reviews is kind of the first goal you want to have. 100 plus is the next goal. We saw a little bit of bump at the 150. It's almost like it's in 50 increments of 50. And remember, you want to get reviews and never stop. But we did see a little bit of diminishing returns past the 150 mark. But again, you got to look at your market, because some of these markets, there's players, and 150 is not even that much, right? So you gotta take all of that into account. But again, these are averages based on the data we have. Next takeaway: full marketing stack equals more leads, more jobs, more revenue. I mean, it sounds obvious. A lot of people still aren't doing it. So, if you're trying to grow and scale this year, you got to put poles in the water, period. And consistent paid advertising helps add gasoline to the fire. Um, and consistent is the key there, because remember, you can kind of turn that dial and scale it up. And then remember, market domination is more important than market size. If some of you are looking to expand and open up, other offices in other markets and other states. So keep that in mind. Obviously, you have your own criteria for where you want to open up an office. Yes, take that into account, obviously. But keep in mind, you want to have a plan of attack when it comes to how you're going to dominate the market to drive your lead flow. And the companies winning today, they're not guessing, they're consistently executing across every channel, pushing for that market domination. Um, and again, this seems obvious, but I'm going to bring it up. Our biggest companies, that are, I'm talking about the people we're working with, 15 million plus a year. We have some guys up there. I mean, they're doing online, offline, and they're never stopping any of it, which is just, and again, we're like, well, we're not surprised that you're getting to these levels, because you understand the game. If you get this stuff dialed in, optimized, you know, properly, you turn the dial. And sometimes, your numbers as you scale the paid ads, like it might not be, your acquisition cost, your CAC, right? Your customer acquisition cost, it will fluctuate actually. Um, and that's where, our job is we try to we try to increase the lead volume by bringing down the lead cost, which will help decrease your CAC, but it will fluctuate. That's business. That's life. Um, that's the game we're in. So keep all those points in mind. That's it for today. I wish everybody successful 2026. Hopefully, you guys got some value from this, and we will see you on the next episode of the Restoration Success Show. All right. Thanks, everyone.